You are Locked On Rams Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Los Angeles, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Say it with me, folks. Whose house? Rams house, baby. What is going on, Ramley? And welcome to a very, very special edition of the Locked On Rams Postcast, coming at you live after every single Rams game here on the Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel, and after the fact, both on the channel and wherever you get the Locked On Rams podcast feed. If you don't know who I am, hello, everybody. My name is Gavin Carlson, former credentialed journalist in the LA area with the Daily Bruin, now part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see we have a very special guest here on today's Rams Postcast, former college defensive back, longtime NFL defensive coach, UFL coach, Mr. Dr. Anthony Blevins here joining in. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good, Gavin. How about yourself, man?
Oh, I'm doing more than good. I'm doing fantastic after what we just witnessed. Our Rams, with some question marks, coming in as an underdog. We know everything that not only this team, but this entire city is going through right now. I'm in LA, and, before we start, have to say, thoughts going out to every single person here in Los Angeles, whether you've evacuated, know someone who has, or you're just being affected by, any aspect of these wildfires. Obviously, our thoughts are with you, your family, your friends, and everybody. And thank you to our Rams today for giving us something to really, clear our minds, distract ourselves with, and really just celebrate here as the Rams dominate the Vikings 27-9 in Arizona to move on to the divisional round of the NFC playoffs. And before we jump into this one, because boy, oh boy, do we have a lot to talk about. Quick shout out to the sponsor of today's show. It is FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets if you win or lose your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into this one. This game was over at halftime. We were joking, me and Anthony here, before we even got on live, that by halftime we kind of knew what this one was going to be in terms of talking about this show. It was really over at half, a dominating performance, and I'm really glad we have a defensive mind here on the show today to just talk about this dominant performance from the Rams defense. We know how talented the front four is. We saw it with Kobbie Turner. We saw it with Young. We saw it with Jared Verse. But the secondary, sticking on to Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and really just putting this one away at halftime. What do you think of the defensive performance from the Rams tonight?
It was absolutely spectacular. It's probably one of the better defensive performance that the Rams have had all year. It was fantastic. I love the game plan that they went into the game with. Chris Shula and the staff, they did an excellent job. Hats off to them because they did a phenomenal job. They played zone coverage. They played some man coverage. They did a great job of mixing it. And that front four, we talked about it before we got on the air. They were fantastic. Kobbie Turner, Jared Verse, that whole crew, they dominated the game. They set the tone for the game. And the Rams sent pressure, but they didn't have to. The front four dominated even when they didn't. So I thought this was a phenomenal game plan, and it was second to none. This team is a team to be reckoned with in the playoffs if they can play defense like this. We talked about the secondary. The secondary, all types of holes in the secondary. They played good zone coverage. They played discipline in the back end. They played a lot of zone pressure looks, and they did a phenomenal job staying with Jordan Jefferson, Jordan Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and that whole crew, Naylor. I mean, they completely shut them down. The only thing they really had going for them, the Vikings did, was the tight end, TJ Hawkinson, who had a touchdown. But other than that, there was nothing going. They shut down the run game. Aaron Jones could not get going. And, I mean, you saw the results of it, 27-9, and the Rams just dominated completely.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny. I know a lot of people that watched the show last week are going to come at me because on that show, I was saying the Rams really made a questionable decision. Sean McVay made a questionable decision, resting the starters for the entire game, ultimately losing that game, ultimately dropping one seed in the playoffs, and ultimately having to face the loser of that Lions-Vikings game instead of playing the Commanders. I was coming on that show saying questionable decision. Now you have to play, a historically good wild card team, whether it would have been the Lions or the Vikings, a 14-win wild card team. And a lot of people were coming at me both live on the show and after the fact saying, Gavin, we already beat the Vikings once. We can do it again. Darnold's a fraud. And hey, I got to tip my cap to a lot of you guys because, boy, were you right. I mean, when there's blowouts in the NFL, it's never just one team playing phenomenal or one team playing awful. It's usually got to be a combination of both. And in my opinion, I thought we had a combination of both. We saw the Lions kind of unveil a little blueprint on how you can stop the Minnesota Vikings, and it's really get pressure in Darnold's face any way possible, whether it's the front four, whether it's sending pressure. And we saw a Darnold that we know we used to make fun of him for seeing ghosts back when he was on the Jets. He saw a ghost throughout this game. I mean, whether it was sending a Kobbie Durant off the edge, whether it was just that front four of Jared versus Kobbie Turner getting pressure, it seemed like every play Darnold was under pressure. Even when he wasn't, you could see him thinking like he was in pressure. There was a couple times he'd make a guy miss, and then you could see Kevin O'Connell on the sideline screaming, get rid of the ball, get rid of the ball. And just he was all over the place mentally. So the moral of the story is we saw Rams defense use what they saw last week from the Lions in terms of getting pressure on Darnold, and they absolutely replicated that in every way possible, whether it was sending the blitz or not, and really just made him look lost the entire game. They had no run game. We know that's a huge aspect of the Vikings. A Kevin O'Connell offense, just like a Sean McVay offense. It's about running the ball, getting that play action, using motion. I mean, Aaron Jones, 13 for 48. Cam Akers, 5 for 39. And then Sam Darnold gets sacked 9 times,
Nine times.
Sacks. I think it was 7, like midway through the third quarter. So, I mean, it doesn't matter how good of a team the Vikings were all regular season. If it's 2nd and 18, 3rd and 12, every single drive, you're just not going to get anything going. And obviously, we saw that in this one. We're going to talk plenty about the Rams offense in the later segments here. But I'm just curious what, in terms of Sam Darnold specifically, a lot of questions about if he's elite quarterback and whatnot. Is this a case of, no, this Rams defense is actually elite, or is this more of this Vikings offense was overrated throughout the whole season? Which one do you think it leans more towards?
I think the Rams are elite on defense. I think they're a young defense and they're growing into the scheme. And you see they're gelling at the right time. Sam Darnold, he had an excellent year. You can't take away what he did. He's got excellent targets on the outside. Justin Jefferson, I think I called him Jordan Jefferson earlier, but like he's an all-pro. So you've got talent. You got Aaron Jones who came over from Green Bay. They have talent on their team. And so you can't take away from what they've done all year. To win 14 games, that's something that's special. But you have to take your hat off and give the Rams defense credit. They deserved it. They had 6 sacks at halftime. Like that's unheard of. In today's league in the NFL, that's unheard of to have 6 sacks at halftime. So they did some stuff schematically. They kept mixing it up. So you got to take your hat off and tip your hat to the Rams because they played excellent on defense. And that was the turn to tell of the game. They came out and they set the tone offensively, went down and scored. And then the rest of it, they dominated the game. The Vikings were out of it really, midway through the second quarter when Kevin O'Connell decided to go for it right before halftime, right at midfield. That was the ball game. The game was over. They go down and score. They go up 24-3 with 15 seconds left in the half. That was the ball game. But that tells you how dominant the Rams defense was because he felt like he had to make a play and he panicked, made a bad decision, and it cost him the game.
Absolutely. Yeah. At that point, it's 17-3, like you said. The Rams absolutely would have taken it going into the halftime up 17-3. They dodged a bullet with that Matthew Stafford, looked like a scoop and score for a touchdown, was an incomplete pass. Meanwhile, on the exact opposite end, the Rams able to get a scoop and score on a Sam Darnold fumble. So not only did they dominate the line of scrimmage in terms of stopping their run game, having a better run game, not only did they have the big defensive play and avoid the big defensive play on the other end. I mean, they just did absolutely everything well. And then, like you said, you get a 4th down and 2 at midfield. You're down 2 scores if you're the Vikings. And it did, in my opinion, it felt a little greedy. It felt like, one of those moments where everything has gone wrong for the Vikings. If you can just get to halftime, even if you're down 14 points, you regroup. There's a lot of energy behind the Rams and the fans in there for so many reasons. But at the same time, like you said, when you go for it on 4th down that early in this game, you're feeling desperate. I mean, the fact that you're at the 50-yard line and you feel like that's the closest you're going to get in terms of trying to go and steal some points before the half, it was really telling. And I have a lot of respect for Kevin O'Connell. Obviously, I think he's probably still, if not the favorite for coach of the year, number 2 to Dan Campbell. But I feel like the Vikings had a couple mistakes throughout this game, not only just that decision, but really their play calling the entire second half. Looked like they didn't even realize they were down 3 scores for like the entire third and fourth quarter, running the football, letting the clock run, all that. We'll get into that, and we have to talk about this Rams offense as well. So a lot to talk about here as we get a victory for the Rams here in the wild card round. We'll be right back, and after this first break, we got to give the offense credit. I mean, like we said, 24 points in the first half for the Rams in a dominant 27-9 win. This is the Locked On Rams Postcast. I'm Gavin Carlson. That's Anthony Blevins. We'll be right back after our first break, and when we do, oh yeah, we got a whole lot more to talk about. Whose house? Rams house. We'll be right back. Now, today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn. I always talk about it on these shows. I have a cool relationship with LinkedIn. Obviously, I'm a recent college grad. I use LinkedIn to find my current job with the Clippers, but I used to have a job where I was with a recruiting firm that exclusively used LinkedIn in order to recruit candidates for our clients. And whether you're, if you want to grow your small business in 2025, it comes down to how well you can hire. Let's face it, better hires start with smarter insights, and that's where LinkedIn comes in. With the strongest hiring data available, LinkedIn helps you identify the right candidates, giving you the confidence to make the best decisions for your business. I've used LinkedIn Jobs myself, like I said, and I can tell you it's a game changer when it comes to hiring the right fit. Small businesses are wearing a lot of hats, so every hire is crucial. LinkedIn gets that. That's why they connect you with the best candidates using data you won't find anywhere else. From unique skills and interests to the connections you share, LinkedIn helps you find the right person for the job. In fact, 72% of small businesses say LinkedIn has helped them find high-quality candidates. So hire smarter this year and find your next great hire on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. And today's show is also brought to you by Prize Picks. It's playoff time, and if you're like me, you want to make the most of these final weeks of football action. That's where Prize Picks comes in. If you love football and want a chance to win real money while watching the games, Prize Picks is the place for you. It's the best way to turn your sports opinions into cash with daily fantasy player projections. With Prize Picks, you simply pick more or less on player stats like total passing yards or rushing touchdowns, and for your shot to win up to 1,000 times your money. And you can make your picks in less than 60 seconds. Whether you're looking for a flex play to boost your payout or want to cash out quickly, Prize Picks has got you covered. And with over 10 million members and billions in winnings, it's clear that people are loving this platform. So here's a special offer for Locked On NFL listeners. Download the app today and use code Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's Prize Picks. Run your game. Again, download the app today and use code Locked On NFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. One more time, Prize Picks, run your game. Back here live at Locked On Sports Los Angeles YouTube channel. Once again, the Locked On Rams Postcast. I'm Gavin Carlson. That's former longtime NFL defensive coach Anthony Blevins, and the Rams with an absolute dominant performance here in Arizona with all of LA and really the entire country behind them. A 27-9 win to advance to the divisional round. We'll get into that preview of the Rams-Eagles game next week in the third segment, but we have to talk about this Rams offense a little bit, right? I mean, obviously the defense was dominant, but a really, really almost near perfect offensive start for the Rams in the first half, able to score on their first 2 drives, a 7-play, 70-yard touchdown drive to get things started. Matthew Stafford, I mean, he didn't have an incompletion through like the first 2 or so drives. Really clean game, not a lot of sacks for the Rams until later on in this one, and really looked like a complete team in this one. Anthony, what did you think of the Rams offense going against the Vikings defense led by Brian Flores that has given a lot of offensive trouble in this season, but not today for the Rams?
It looked like they figured them out. The Vikings have been giving pressure, doing a lot of different looks, but it looked like going into the game, the first couple of drives, that the Rams figured out what they were doing. They would move up the running back, Kyron Williams, into the A-gap, and they knew when the linebacker was coming. He would stay back. The linebacker would still be in the A-gap, but then he would drop. So it looked like they had it figured out. I don't know what communication they had on them or anything, but they knew what they were going. And Puka Nacua was great. The first drive, they kept hitting Tyler Higbee. Like, he had a phenomenal game. Like, they didn't have answers for him. Like, it was almost like the Vikings did not expect them to see Tyler Higbee in the game plan. So they played excellent all the way around. I thought the O-line was really good because Minnesota gives you some hard looks, some things that you have to pick up. I thought the O-line was excellent tonight, really, for the Rams. I thought they played a really, really good game. And it was kind of clean across the board in all phases. Receivers, tight ends, running backs, they were all clean. Kyron Williams, unbelievable. He had a screen pass out of the backfield. He actually got called back, made a couple people miss, picked up about 15 yards, got called back. Excellent run. But with everything that was going on in the Rams locker room, with the fires, having to move, evacuate, bringing family, the dogs, the cats, all of that, for them to come out and play the way they did tonight was exciting to see, where they could put all of this stuff behind them, play really good quality football. I think this is a team that you really have to watch out for, because I think they can click on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the main thing you said there that a lot of Rams fans and myself are going to agree with and be so excited to hear from a neutral party and not someone who's a Rams homer like myself and a lot of people in this chat is a clean game. I felt like the question coming into this game, and like I hinted at it in the first segment in terms of stopping the Vikings, it was about negative plays, right? Could the Rams keep Matthew Stafford clean? Could they get Sam Darnold dirty? And they really did that. The only negative play in really those entire first two drives for the Rams was a questionable personal foul, unnecessary roughness call on our center, Bo Limmer, that really prevented the Rams from making it 14-0. It looked like the Rams were going to march down after that opening drive touchdown, get another touchdown, make it 14-0. That 15-yard penalty ultimately helps limit the Rams to just a field goal on that second drive. But really, other than that, no negative plays. Matthew Stafford clean. I know he ends up getting sacked quite a few times. I believe the number ended up being like 6 or 7 or something, but at least in the first half, and especially on those first two drives, he was upright. He had time. I mean, when the first play of the game is just Stafford play action, look, rip it 27 yards to Puka Nacua, you're like, okay, Matthew Stafford's arm is live tonight. There's always going to be people questioning the age, questioning how much he's got left in the tank. No. He looked sharp. The offensive line is getting better and better with every week that goes by, getting more and more healthy. And, I know you're not following this team super closely, but in the 3 weeks prior to last week where they rested their starters, they didn't get 20 points in any of those 3 games. They put up 44 in a huge win against Buffalo. At that point, everyone's ready to anoint the Rams offense as one of the top 5 in the league. Then they put up 12 against San Francisco in a, rainy game. They put up 19 against the Jets in really an underwhelming performance. And then they escaped with a 13-9 win that ultimately clinched the NFC West in a game they probably didn't deserve to win. So a lot of people at this point were saying, yes, this Rams defense is elite, but is this Rams offense suddenly falling off? And so, boy, it felt really good to see them come out and have 2 phenomenal drives. They really didn't let their foot off the gas in that entire first half. And you didn't need to do anything in the second half with the score, what it was at 24-3 at halftime. I mean, Cooper Kupp didn't have a catch for the entire first half, I believe, and they were still able to get it done. I'm just curious, in terms of where the Rams offense is going into Philadelphia, and we'll preview this game in the next segment, but what if there's one thing you're worried about with the Rams offense, what is it? Is it Kyron Williams? Is it the big playability? Is it still the offensive line? Like, what's the biggest worry for the Rams, honestly, at this point?
I think they've got to get the run game going. When the Rams are elite, they get the run game going. Kyron Williams, that old line, they run the inside-outside zone better than anybody in the league. And for them to have a chance against Philadelphia next week, they've got to be able to run the football. Philadelphia is playing elite football on defense. Vic Fangio coming over from Miami last year, and he's got that defense going. They're really good up front. So they have got to find a way to run the football to keep that pressure off of Matthew Stafford, because that pressure will come next week, I promise you.
Oh, yeah, it will. And it's going to be a tough atmosphere, obviously, in Philly. I think it's a 12 p.m. kickoff there on Sunday. So it's going to be a real interesting, probably one of the, closer games in terms of this next round. So let's not waste any more time. Let's preview this game next week. So we're going to take our last break. And then when we come back, Rams-Eagles next week. We have to talk about it. Do the Rams have a chance? I know they're coming in as almost a touchdown underdog, but I certainly think they have a shot. We'll talk about that after our last break here on the Locked On Rams Postcast. We'll be right back. Now, finally, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. Just visit the apps. When I visit the website, it takes me 2 seconds to, whether you see these big flashy lights, you see Cooper Kupp over on touchdowns, you see Puka Nacua. It's like it's Christmas Day every single time you open the FanDuel website. And, like we said, Rams going to be underdogs next week. I believe it's a 6-point spread. So if you're in a state where it's legal, you can certainly bet on that and so much more. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started once again with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Back here live one more time on a victorious playoff edition of the Locked On Rams Postcast. I'm Gavin Carlson. He's Anthony Blevins, and the Rams are headed to Philly after a 27-9 win in Arizona. Once again, shout out to everybody in the city of Los Angeles. I'm here. Luckily, I'm in a pretty safe area, but I know a lot of people aren't. And so really glad the Rams were able to take everyone's minds off of everything going on with a huge 27-9 victory. Let's not waste any more time. We have to talk about the matchup for the Rams next week in Philly. They're going to be 6-point underdogs according to Vegas, traveling to Philly 14-3. They were really dominant all season long. Certainly one of the top 3 or 4 teams in the NFL, really the entire season. You talked about the Rams running game being a huge, huge aspect of this game. Got to be able to mitigate the pressure of that talented Philly front 4 and front 7. But we have to talk about the Philly run game, right? I mean, Saquon Barkley, one of the best rushing seasons we've ever seen, not to mention one of the top 3 or 4 rushing quarterbacks. But the Rams have a great front 7. How do you see the Rams defense matching up against Saquon Barkley, against that talented offensive line, and against Jalen Hurts?
I think this is what I think. I picked Philadelphia on the show I did earlier yesterday, so I'm not going to go away from my pick. But I do think they match up pretty well against Philadelphia. I think if they can play like they did tonight, but they'll be okay. But they have got to stop the run. They've got to load the box. And the thing with Philadelphia was what makes Philadelphia really tough is when you load the box. Well, they've got A.J. Brown on one side, Devontae Smith on the other side. That makes it really tough to kind of pick your poison. Yesterday, the Eagles didn't play their best football yesterday. When you watch the game, they didn't play their best football versus Green Bay, but they did well enough to win. I think the emergence of Dallas Goedert coming back for the Eagles, I think that might be the difference in the ball game. I look for the ball game to be a fairly close game, a 24-21 type of ball game. But Jalen Hurts has to play better for him. But I don't think the Eagles are going to blow the Rams out. I think they match up well actually against Philadelphia.
Yeah, I mean, I think in order for the Rams to win this game and keep this game close, I think they got to make it one of those ugly games, right? We see that 44-42 win against Buffalo, and we see what this team did when they won a Super Bowl with that, playing Monday night games against the Rams when they had against the Chiefs when they had Jared Goff. You think Rams for the last 5-6 years, Sean McVay, it's win games, first to 50. But no. To win this game, I think it's got to be an ugly one. If you can make it a game where it's 17-13 and you hope the Rams have the ball last and they're able to go steal a touchdown at the end of the game or something like that, that's your recipe to win this game. And how do you do that? Well, like you were saying, you run the ball with Kyren Williams. The Rams have had plenty of drives this season where they're taking 8 minutes, 9 minutes, 10 minutes. I think they got to do that throughout this one. And then, like you said, this secondary, it really played well against a great wide receiver tandem in Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. But I think Justin Jefferson's better than A.J. Brown, certainly. But I think Devontae Smith is better than Jordan Addison. I think that's still a tougher wide receiver tandem to handle. And I thought the Vikings played into the Rams' hands in this game by falling behind, having 3rd and 15s where the Rams are able to play that soft zone coverage, have help over the top, and survive. if it's 2nd and 6, if it's 3rd and 3, because Saquon's getting 5 on first down or 5 on second down, the Eagles are going to eat the Rams apart. Let's be honest, right? But if you can, on a 1st and 10, keep it to 2nd and 9, 2nd and 8, and make Jalen Hurts be a pocket passer on a 3rd and 7 throughout this game, I think that's where you have a chance to win. It sounds like you got to understand correctly. Not only do you have the Eagles winning this game, were you saying you have the Eagles going all the way? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, I got the Eagles in Baltimore in the Super Bowl in New Orleans. That's who I picked. I think it's the All-Bird Super Bowl. So go Birds.
Hey, I mean
that's my FanDuel bet right there.
There you go. Shouting out the sponsor there. I love it. I mean, you certainly can't make an argument against it. I mean, you can, but it's certainly a valid prediction. The Eagles really, it feels like they haven't had a huge dip, right? The Lions, their biggest question mark is how healthy that defense is. It certainly looked really, really good in that game against the Vikings last week, but the Eagles feel like the most complete team, maybe in the entire NFL, maybe outside of Baltimore. So that's why you're a smart guy having them both in the Super Bowl. I think the only way you can get the Eagles, the only way the Eagles can get is if they have one of those weeks where A.J. Brown's getting frustrated because he's not getting the ball. And Jalen Hurts, maybe there are some question marks about him as just a pocket passer. I mean, I am not one of those people who thinks Jalen Hurts isn't one of the 7 or 8 best quarterbacks in the NFL. I certainly think he is, but your only argument really against the Eagles is hoping he isn't, right? Is hoping you can have him in the pocket on a 3rd and 8, and maybe he isn't as elite as people think. But it's certainly going to be a tough matchup for the Rams. I think I'd still rather play the Eagles than the Lions, just because playing in Detroit with that fan base, the way it just feels like the whole vibe of the season is behind the Lions. I think I'd rather play the Eagles and see what happens on that side of the bracket with the Lions. But it's going to be a great game. Give me your score prediction real quick. I'm curious, just so we know. It's Eagles favored by 6. The over/under is 45.5. So I think they've got it at around 26-20 Eagles as the prediction. Does that sound right to you? You agreeing with Vegas?
I'm taking the Rams to cover. I'm taking the Rams in the points.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it'll be 24-20, somewhere in there. So I'm taking the Rams.
Yeah, I mean, trust me, that's. I would love to see it come down to a field goal game, and then anything can happen, right? I don't think anyone expects the Rams to do tonight to the Vikings what they did to the Vikings tonight. No one thinks they're going to be able to do that to the Eagles. I think if there is a blowout, you probably have to say it's the Eagles blowing the Rams out. But I think Sean McVay is too smart of a coach, and we saw a great performance from Chris Shula tonight. I think we can make it a gross game, kind of like those 3 games I was talking about earlier, where you're winning in the teens. If you can have a game like that, you can have a shot, absolutely. But man, it was fun. It was fun. First time. Or go ahead. What you got?
No, I was about to say, I just think the Rams are gelling at the right time. So I think it's going to be a really entertaining game. I don't think it's a blowout. If it's a blowout, don't get mad at me. Everybody that bets from FanDuel, don't get mad at me. But I do think it's going to be an entertaining game. I think it's going to be a close game. And I do think, like you said, it's going to be an ugly game, running the ball, because there's a weather factor in Philadelphia. I don't know what the weather will be, but it's outdoors. It can be windy. It can be snowy. It could be a lot of things that could happen over there on the East Coast. So I do think it's going to be a close game, and I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a really good, entertaining football game.
Yeah, and one thing I will say, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't mention the fact that the Eagles did absolutely put it on the Rams earlier this season, 37-20 at SoFi Stadium on a Monday night. Maybe that was Sunday night. I don't remember. It was either Sunday or Monday night, but it was 37-20.
I think it was Sunday night game.
Sunday night game on NBC. That does sound right. I mean, in that one, you only sacked Jalen Hurts one time. The Eagles didn't turn the ball over, I don't believe. And Saquon Barkley went absolutely nuclear, 26 for 255 and 2 touchdowns. He had a 72-yard rushing touchdown. And I believe he had a 60-yard rushing touchdown as well. So obviously Saquon's got the home run capability. If you can keep it to a couple 20-yard runs, and other than that, it's a lot of 6-yard carries, you're going to give yourself a chance to stay in this one. The Rams fell behind early in this game. They fumbled the first drive of the game. They were immediately down 3-0, and they actually went up 7-3. But really from that point on, I think it was like 20 unanswered points by Philly after that. So We got to keep the home run balls from Saquon, prevent those from happening, and keep yourself in the game. Any last thoughts, Mr. Dr. Anthony Blevins? You're the NFL guy. People were coming at me in the comment section saying, you're just a 22-year-old who's never played the game, never coached the game. You wrote a couple articles in college. What do you know? Well, I got a credible guy next to me, okay? He played the game in college. He coached the game at every level. Any last comments from you?
No, man, I think the game tonight is indicative of what could happen. When teams get hot late in the season, they're healthy, they can go and run the table. So, so for everybody that's on the Rams bandwagon, I wish you luck. I do think Philadelphia is going to get you next week. I apologize for that. I know the fan base will be all mad at me, but I do feel like Philadelphia is going to win. But I think it's been a heck of a run, but it's not off the table that the Rams can't beat Philadelphia.
Absolutely. Hey, that's what I like to hear. You just got to have a puncher's chance. And instead of a Saquon Barkley home run, maybe it's a Puka Nacua breakaway on a 60-yard touchdown. Maybe it's Kyron Williams having a play like the screen passes you were mentioning in this show, breaking a couple tackles and breaking one. We certainly have the talent on both sides of the ball to make it happen. But yeah, it's going to be a great game. And of course, as always, I will be here live after the game. I believe you're going to be joining me. I'm not positive, but I think you're going to be with me. Hopefully. I certainly hope so because it was fun today.
Right.
But we will be live after the game on Sunday. Like I said, it's a noon kickoff, so around 3:15, I'll certainly be here. Hopefully it's another victory edition. But shout out to everybody in here. It was a fun show. A lot of comments, a lot of people, certainly the most people we've ever had in here live. So if it's your first time, if it's your 18th time, either way, leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. You can hit us both up on Twitter. And one more time. Whose house? Rams house, baby. Take care, everybody. Good night. Stay safe. Praying for everybody in LA. And let's go shock the world against Philly next week. Take care, everybody.